Hello and welcome to the first ever Terrace Life Podcast. A look behind the scenes at not just the guys from the terrace, but from football clubs and key people off the pitch. I'm your host, Gary Devonport, and for episode 1, there could only be one set of guests to interview. And of course, that is Paul and Carl, the founders of the Terrace. Gents, welcome to your very own podcast.
I could say thanks for having us, but yeah, I mean...
Yeah, thanks for having us on your own podcast.
Thank you.
So obviously, we did originally plan that this would be done in a studio and would look all nice and posh. However, global health crisis derailed that. So how are you guys getting on in the global health crisis? I'll start with you, Paul, who's just been complaining that he spends a lot of time sat at his desk.
Yeah, in this room basically all day long. I actually, how long have we been in lockdown for? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Coming up 3 weeks.
I can't remember, but I was clean shaven like you when it started. So, but yeah, just, sort of like everybody else, getting to grips with a change of daily life, and just trying to get on with things as normal as you can, I guess, with everything that's going on.
What about you, Carl? Because obviously you've got the added influence of children like myself.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks in. The kids are off school. I'm bored of home teaching. I say I'm bored of home teaching. I go to the office. I leave the better half there with the kids. So I come home and have to take over for the evenings. But I mean, Paul says he was clean shaven at the start. I was 11 stone, believe it or not.
We both had this problem.
The thing is, on the homeschooling debate, how difficult actually is it to homeschool?
Terrible. I don't know how teachers have that much patience.
No, literally, I totally agree.
Like, I last about 5 minutes, and I'm just like, do you know what? Let's go stick a film on. We'll put an educational one on. Put Lion King on.
Schindler's List.
Learn a bit about life. It's just mental. I don't know how teachers do it for 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day, whatever it is. It's, I think we're all struggling with teaching kids at home. None of us know what we're doing. All relying on Joe Wicks to keep us fit at the moment, and I ain't even doing that, to be honest. Kids are right, and I supervise. Just let them know they're doing it right.
Yeah, it's a good way. Anyway, so let's get into it then. So we're going to go back in time, before COVID-19, before the lockdown, before panic buying, before toilet roll became a necessity for everybody in the world ever. So how did the terrace come to life then, Carl? I'll come to you first. Do you remember a point when what we see now as the mug empire that you've got? How did it begin?
It didn't even start as a mug empire. It's like, mug empire is probably a really good way to put it, but the terrace actually started as just a Facebook page. We just posted funny football stuff. Like, I dread to think what we were posting if I went back 3 years now and looked at what we were posting on Facebook. It was just all the controversial football memes. It was just a funny page, killed some time in the evening. And our story really does get summed up with one thing led to another. And I spoke to Paul, he was actually talking to me about it this morning. I remember sending Paul a message saying, I've got a bit of an idea and I want to speak to you. And so it all stemmed from this kind of love of football, posting about funny football stuff. But then it was kind of, where can we fill gaps in market? And the terrace was kind of born with an idea to give fans something that they feel that they're missing. Long story short is, with club shops especially, it's, it's not talking out of turn, but they have a fan to cater for. Whichever club you support, you walk into a club shop, you will see dog bowls, clocks, dressing gowns, everything under the sun, and all it has on it is the club badge. And that's not a bad thing for a club, because fans want to represent what club they support. But I think it's been done for that many decades now that people are bored of buying everything with a club badge on. And then that's where the conversation between Paul and I started. It was kind of like, how do we change this? Because football merchandising's hit a bit of a rut. And it's kind of taken until probably this year, late last year, where things have started to change and clubs themselves have started to adapt. But we kind of came up with our idea for merchandising at the right time, because as clubs have now started to adapt, we're already front runners in what we do. So that's another reason for clubs to contact us and kind of work with our products. And I'll let Paul carry on with from the message.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's kind of funny is, like, when we were talking about it this morning and I was thinking about it, it's funny because, like, what we do really, really well, and it's quite a funny thing with, like, me and Carl together, is that we kind of work really well together in the sense that we're almost complete opposites. And, like, the thing that at the time was quite interesting was Carl had like an idea and also had a concept about how sort of like a business is broken down effectively into like the ideas and then the polished sort of article at the end. And Carl had an idea for a business and he had an idea for how it could work. And my sort of input at the beginning was, I completely flipped the idea that he had sort of for how it was going to come to fruition on its head. And we kind of went in a different sort of direction with that. And we started to think like, right, okay, how do we make this work? And like, you know, how do we not just, I mean, a lot of people think it's sort of simple. Just you create some designs, you chuck them online and like off you go. But there's a lot more to it than that when you potentially want to reach a level where you're like an actual like legitimate business. And like we toy around a lot with ideas and refine things and break things down. And it was kind of a moment where I kind of thought, yeah, this is a really, really good idea. And, you know, we could potentially take this somewhere. Obviously, whenever you start doing something, you don't really have an idea or a grasp of where it's going to go. Like, little did I know that 3 years later we'd be where we are now. And you always hope and dream that those things are going to happen, but you know, really, you kind of think, well, this might work, it might not, but you know, we'll give it a go. And it was very sort of organic at the beginning, and we kind of just did things that we wanted to do, probably without even thinking about, oh yeah, let's make this much money. I mean, I literally remember when we made our first sale, and it was like we literally sold like a t-shirt, and I've never been so excited in my life. Like, we were absolutely buzzing, and we're like, every time it happened, it was that, oh my God, we've sold another shirt. I mean, we sold one last week and we sold one this week, but that's amazing. Like,
I think the important thing there as well is like, we, and Paul's touched on it before with in loads of kind of public places, is we aren't born businessmen. We're just two blokes that know a bit about business and have experience from where we come from. And, you know, the Terrace has been a learning curve for us as much as it's been a growing business. You know, we're not vocal about it, but we've touched upon it before. Like, we've made mistakes as a business. You know, our first products that were going up had Umbro logos on, Nike logos on, and we were pushing boundaries in trademark infringement and stuff. And, you know, it's because we didn't really understand at the time where we were causing infringements or we were using other people's trademarks. So I'm mostly proud about where we are today because, you know, we received legal letters, we received phone calls, we received all these different kind of forms of media from football clubs, from the FA, from loads of places and high up places. You know, I think Paul will remember it because he probably went through it with a top fine tooth comb. But I think, you know, the legal letters we received from the FA were about 92 pages long. And it was just like, do you know what I mean? Two lads that have been in a business for 6 months receive a 92-page letter from the FA. It's like, you know, and any normal business or setup at that point would see that as an alarm, and they would just go, right, okay, let's stop what we're doing. We made a bit of cash. That was great. You know, I'll think of something else. I've got a day job. Doesn't matter. Now, we did have day jobs at the time, but we used those moments as purely as learning curves. So it was, take that back. Right, this is what we've done wrong, but we now know what is wrong. So we remove those products and we go back to the drawing board. Me being a graphic designer by trade has helped us with that, like in a huge aspect. because we have made a mistake with a product, taken it back and gone, right, how do we adapt it now? And because the design work's done in-house, we can work quite quickly on that. But, you know, it's easy to say, you know, there's been certain clubs that have come down on us and said, you can't do this. And, you know, there's one club that we've had to sign paperwork with to say that we will never release a product. And that's even if it's not infringing their trademark. It's, you know, some different clubs see us in a different light, but we see that more as a challenge than a hindrance. If someone has an issue, you know, our door's always open. Every club we've spoke to, we don't necessarily, I mean, myself personally, if I get an email from someone, I just ring them back. I'll speak to them on the phone. And by doing that, in the early stages of the business, is we managed to build a foundation of what was right. And I think that's what's kind of spiraled us so quickly, is because we made those mistakes and we learned those challenges and those hindrances. But, I mean, it was literally 4 or 5 months into running the business. And, you know, I remember the phone call that night. I think it was about a 6-hour phone call with Paul where, you know, we went back and forth with ideas of like, what do we do now? We can't do this. We can't do this. And it was more of a case of going, well, let's not worry about what we can't do. What can we do? And, you know, we redeveloped the whole business. And that redevelopment was probably the most crucial part of the Terrace being where it is today, because we had an option. And, you know, Paul and I discussed that night where we got certain letters and legal paperwork and stuff. We discussed that night, shall we just shut everything down, take the money, and that's it, it's done. And we made the decision to, no, let's just look at it from a different angle. And for me, that's the most important part of this business's journey, is that we took the time to take a step back, look at what we've done wrong, learn as a business, learn as individuals, and then go, regardless of whether we've done something wrong or right, what we're hoping to achieve and what our goal is, that goal and what we're hoping to achieve hasn't changed. We still want to provide fans with a different option for merchandising. So with that being the case, it was, let's rework everything. So we did rework everything about 6 months in, relaunched, tried new ideas. And to be honest, when we relaunched with new ideas and a different kind of outlook on products, that's when the Terrace started growing. And that product was the Yaboa kit mug, if I remember rightly.
It was the first one.
It was the Yaboa kit mug. Yeah, the Yaboa kit mug was the new idea. We went down a streetwear kind of avenue so early on, and that's where we caused so much issue with trademark and so on. And when we took back and we said, right, what if we want to give fans something different? What is it that they want? And I think when you take all football clubs, obviously you've got some that have got huge successes right now, but there's a lot of clubs that haven't had any honours, wins, promotions for decades. So those fans realistically haven't got much to shout about right now. So why not give them something where they can remember the good times? They can remember their first football match, remember going to a game with their dad, or the first time their granddad took them to a game, all these different moments in football that mean so much to people, but they can't ever relive their moments, because we're talking of times where, you know, a lot of kits we do and stuff are from late 80s and so on. There aren't YouTube videos of those games, or if there are, they're really grainy and poor quality. It's hard to relive that moment. So what our products do is provide a connection from fan to moment. And that's now what our business is built on, rather than, yeah, here's a cool design, just slap it on a t-shirt and let's just hope this Premier League club don't see it. Like, we did the hard work back in the day, and now it kind of, and that's where the following 2 years just spiraled. Like, I can't even.
Things.
2 years into that.
What's sort of like happened as well, which sort of for me is like quite ironic, and we've seen it sort of ourselves, because Carl comes from a graphic and a print background. I come from a music, merchandise and marketing background. So, you know, I 11 years ago joined a company which was starting out as a in the merchandise business, which had sort of a period of like a growth spurt where it was kind of, the only way that I can really describe it was sort of standing at the top of a hill and kicking a football and then running after it to try and catch it, because it's constantly sort of all the moving parts and trying to keep these things together. And sort of the last 2 years has sort of been like that for me and Carl, to try and cope with it, to sort of manage the growth properly, and to make sure that we're doing things. I mean, we still make mistakes now, and we still do things and change. I mean, Carl's sort of I wouldn't call him like a micromanager, but he does things where he changes stuff.
Put up that Bielsa Christmas mug. I didn't even clock that it looked like Rolf Harris.
Yeah, but like
they're still making mistakes now.
Yeah, but like when it comes to stuff, like I think one of the things that like you do a lot is you change your mind and you improve. Even if you just think about the what a mug looked like when we first did the designs, like there were no collars on mugs, and there was no it didn't matter if the color was perfect or the pattern was off, or there was no sort of thing like that. And like that's one of the things that we've sort of managed to sort of, we're constantly changing those things, but we're also learning and growing as people. I mean, I never ever I ran a couple of businesses like years and years and years ago where the accounts were handled on a spreadsheet, and there was maybe 50 lines on a spreadsheet for a whole year. Like, now I'm staying up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning trying to file a VAT return when, and I've had to sort of get educational help on, how these things work, and to try and learn, how to manage sort of these aspects of a business where I had a rough idea around the edges of how they worked, but didn't actually know the core of, what we ever did. I mean, when I think about when we first started, and we were originally focused on t-shirts and garments and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden it's, as much as I love it and hate it in equal amounts, we're known for mugs, but it's sort of a great thing to sort of do. But at the same time, we're still constantly learning about, customers and fans and, different processes that we handle. And it has been like a whirlwind for the last couple of years. And I think that we're still in the middle of the wash cycle, let's say, where everything's sort of getting tossed upside down and sort of, just it's going to be like this for a while.
So you've already mentioned that, Paul, you're obviously up north like me.
Yep.
And Carl, you're a bit further south, and one comes from a graphic design background and one comes from a music background. So how did you two actually get together, get to know each other, and sort of start bouncing these ideas off each other?
Paul,
do you remember the first time we actually met? Because I can't remember.
No, I don't remember the first time I met Paul, but what he also brushed past is I come from a print and design background. That was my original roots. After print and design, I then spent nearly a decade in music management. So whilst I was managing touring artists, I was dealing with Paul regularly-ish because the company he worked for were selling merchandise for my artists. So I'd see Paul at festivals every year, and we'd be on email sorting merchandising plans out and so on. So that's where my decision to approach Paul with the idea of the Terrace came from, because I kind of was looking for someone that loved football, but it was going to be important that, one, they understood business, and two, they knew about merchandising. For me, there was no better person than Paul because of what he was doing in the job. But I don't remember the first time I met Paul. I have no idea.
I can't remember.
It must have been fate.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing was, at the time, we weren't really mates. We weren't really mates at the time, were we?
No, I hated him. I thought he was a prick.
To be fair, I see some Facebook memories now where he just like abused me on like Facebook posts back in like 2010. But no, I don't remember sort of how that came. But this is like a funny thing I always say to people when it's people like, oh yeah, you and Carl, like, and the thing that's really good is that we kind of have like a seamless working relationship, because Carl's got this incredible like ability to just go bang, there's an idea, and I don't have that. Like you give me something, then I can put all the nuts and bolts together to make it, but I can't come up with the idea for it. I just don't have a creative vision.
Using the current climate as a perfect example, and I think it's something that most of the people watching this right now will have seen, is the NHS kit mug. I think it's, it's not trying to pump up my own ego or nothing, but that NHS kit mug came into my head walking into the kitchen to get a drink. I just walked into the kitchen and suddenly something clicked. I don't know what it was. I don't know where it come from, but my Mac was actually at home that weekend because we didn't know if we were going on to lockdown or not. So I brought all my computers from the office home, and I had this idea in the kitchen, and Paul has probably touched on it already, is I want everything done yesterday. So like,
it's the best and the worst trait that you have. Like it is, so, like, it is the best and the worst trait.
I just, so this idea came into my head in the kitchen, and it was just like, we could raise a lot of money for the NHS here. Like, I think it could go. And like, within 10 minutes of having that idea, I designed it, I'd mocked it, it was on the website, and I rang Paul and said,
I was walking the dog.
So I've just put this product online. I think it'll go well. We'll see how we get on. And then I rang him an hour later and was like, we sold 500 in an hour. All hands on deck next week. But it's just a case of, ideas with myself. It's like ideas can just kind of come out of nowhere, but that's what I like about our business. One of the biggest questions we get asked all the time is, are you at a position? How far into the business are you? Like, are you at where you expected to be at? But one of the things about the Terrace is, I don't think we put too many expectations on anything. All of our best ideas have come on the spot. All of our best deals have come on the spot, off the cuff emails being sent and stuff. And I kind of like that. Like, we go with the moment and what feels right at the time, rather than going, right, this year we have to have this done, this done, this done, this done. If it comes to us, it'll come to us. It's, and I think because of that, we've had a very rapid growth, but a very natural growth. And I think, not being sentimental or nothing, but we literally owe this, where we are today, we owe every single thing. Obviously, Paul and I have put in countless hours, time, and so on into building the business, but we owe everything to the football fans that follow us, because it goes without saying that you've got major companies out there that pay marketing managers and PR campaigns hundreds of thousands of pounds a year into this kind of stuff. Whereas we don't necessarily need to do that, because the fans do a lot of our marketing for us. They're the first people to share our stuff, tag their mates, and all this kind of stuff. And at first, you said, you mentioned off air earlier about our first ever products and stuff. Like, the first product was a Leyton Orient shirt for charity. The club were in tough times, and we did a T-shirt to raise money for the Supporters Trust, I think it was, that were raising money. We did that. We sold a handful. We got well excited because we were selling some products. We've never done it before and so on. And it was like, oh yeah, another T-shirt. Yeah, that's like 2 T-shirts in a month now. Like, if we double that, we could take a tenner each. This is awesome. And now it's like, I'll never forget, like, when you start talking about social media and stuff, it's one of the things we're known for. I tweeted a photo of the Exeter City 93 away mug. Crazy kind of bluey purple shirt with orange and white dashes all over it. And I put this photo up. It had no club badge on it or nothing. It was an unlicensed product. And Exeter City retweeted it. And I remember ringing Paul going, you're not going to believe this. The club have retweeted it. And we were in a day and age where, if we got 10 likes on Twitter, we'd be ringing each other going, that post went a little bit wrong, didn't it? We got 10 likes. And then, so you imagine I get this, I get Exeter City retweet this mug, and I'm ringing him going, God, this might break us. God, what are we going to do? Like, we're going to go viral now. Like, and you look back at those times and you laugh about it and stuff. I think that's the most amazing thing, is that we have always been excited in this business. Like, when we sold 2 T-shirts, we were excited. When we sold, when we did our first ever £1,000 in a month, we were excited. When we got our first club license, we were excited. And then last Christmas, I think we shipped nearly 10,000 mugs in a month. We were excited then, and I'm sure next Christmas we'll look back on the last Christmas and be laughing about being excited about small numbers. And that's where I think we've always remained quite humble, and every step of the way excites us. And that's the big difference between the Terrace and the other football, I say football brands that you see, like not everyone's kind of in that light, but there's a lot of companies that license with clubs who are major corporation brands. And the trouble with that is you get no personality and no character. You just get a company that is taking a club badge, slapping it on any product that they can do. There's no social media, there's no interaction, there's no personal kind of touch to it. It's just sold out to retailers, job done. And that's just the complete opposite to what we are. We're kind of like a bigger company, but we're run by down-to-earth guys that we genuinely care about every single person that's liking our posts and retweeting our posts. You know, I sit there on the Terrace Twitter at night, scrolling through our news feed of all the people we follow, and we'll see sometimes people that we recognise people on Twitter, obviously, because they tweet us photos of their mugs or they tweet us about what products we've released. And we'll see people post about, oh, you know, I'm feeling really kind of glum tonight and stuff. And we'll tweet them from the terrace saying, everything's going to be okay. You know, if you need us, drop us a message. Like, and that's not just me sitting there going, this will look good on Twitter. It's because we genuinely want to put that message out to everyone we deal with. It's, you know, we're not knight in shining armors, but we just like to be real people. And I think
it's just a human, just a human element.
Like, we're not some kind of businessmen in suits sat in tower block buildings just kind of looking down on everyone running a business, like, and we never will be like that, because that's not what we're about and that's not what the company was built on. So yeah, that's my piece on that. Sorry for waffling on.
No, it's good. So you talked about obviously your creative ideas. You talk about your creative ideas, the NHS mug when you went to make a brew on a night. Do you get fans suggesting ideas? Obviously, I do know of at least one that we've discussed before. But and what is the most bizarre request you've been having before?
Bizarre request. Obviously, you can personalise any kit mug that comes in. So I see every personalisation because I'm the one that prints all the artwork. I've done all the artwork. I print all the artwork. So I go into the office in the morning, open up our shipping software. I take the next X amount of orders that we can do that day, and I run off all the artwork, and a lot of those personalised mugs and so on. And I went in one day and I rang Paul and I said, I don't know what to do here. I mean, what to do? And someone had put like a 24-word poem as the name on the shirt with a number as well. They wanted a number as well. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And honestly, I've never seen such a hideous mug in my life. Like,
it was hideous.
It was in the EFL font. I tried to make it look like a football shirt, and I was just like, God, if I do any smaller with this text, you ain't going to be able to read it. Like, honestly. And then I even emailed the customer. I was just like, look, I don't think this is going to look very good. Like, why don't you let me pop a note in there? I'll pop a note in. I'll write it myself. I'll handwrite it. He was like, nah, I want it on the mug. And I was just like, oh, right, whatever. Like, customers always king, aren't they? So I was just like, okay, I'll do it for you. That's fine. But we're so protective over stuff like that. Like, we've never actually had an issue or anything with it. But like, one of the things we actually have to tell our licensed clubs is that we vet every personalization, because we won't print any blasphemy, like swear words and stuff like that, because we have to respect that the club has a brand as well. So if, you know, we're licensed with West Ham and someone orders a West Ham kit mug and then they put, and it's for their mate, and it's like, oh yeah, like this
sex offender 10 on the back of it or something.
Yeah, it's just like, I can't.
That was the first thing that came to mind, sorry.
But I can't ship that with our logo on, with the club badge on, and then see it get posted on social media. Like, the club will come down on me like a ton of bricks. So we haven't really had any weird requests. Someone asked us the other day if we did, this is the weirdest thing, it's a weird request, and I think my response was weirder, was someone said, can you do roller blinds? I want a kit blind for my bedroom. And I went,
Gary's pulling his face here.
We can. I was like, weirdly enough, yes, we can. Like, one of our suppliers actually said to us, like, oh yeah, by the way, we can do roller blinds now. In the middle of a meeting, and we sat there going, who are we going to do roller blinds to? Like,
I'm just trying to, in my head here, figure out how that conversation goes with my wife to get my footballing allegiance on our roller shutter blinds in his bedroom.
Leeds 93 keeper
Just-
kit. Just
don't
put
tell
it
her.
down.
Yeah, just don't tell her.
She'd never notice, I'm sure.
It'd be perfect.
But
That.
yeah, like weird requests. We haven't really had any weird requests. People ask for the randomest of products. Like
We get some weird emails, but like we don't really get weird requests. I don't. Not that I can. We probably did over the years, but not that I can really remember.
some customers think their requests are weird. Like I get emails all the time saying, "Oh yeah, I want to order a kit mug, a request one, but can you do it for my Sunday league team? Sorry, it's a bit of a random one." I'm like, "No, that's cool. That's the stuff I want to do." Like,
Doesn't matter.
they think it's really weird, but I'm just like, fire me over a photo of your team's kit, and I'll have your kit mug made. That's the stuff I enjoy doing. Like, whilst we do license with Premier League, Championship, and all that, like I take huge kind of pride out of doing stuff for League Two, League One, National League, even right down to grassroots football. It's the fact that a Sunday league team can go and get mugs or phone cases and stuff with their kit on. It's never been seen before. Do you know what I mean? Like
that's ace, though.
That's what I pride ourselves on so much, is that we cater for all. Like if you're a football team or a football fan, we cater for it. Whilst it might not be listed on the website because I don't think our bandwidth would be able to handle that many teams, but do you know what I mean? It's using the request features, you can have whatever you want. But yeah, there's not been any weird ones. Like there's no juicy kind of stories on weird requests, sadly.
Just going back to a point you made earlier then about your licensed clubs. So you've got 18 licensed clubs and 13 fan-led artists as well, which as we've touched on already, for my sins, for those who are not Leeds United fans, I am one of them. And we've seen the Great Grady Draws put some artwork out there and some stuff with a square ball. But going back to working with clubs, having been in and around the podcast game for a bit and tried a few times with various clubs on charity stuff and that, how difficult is it to get a sit down and get an in at a club to be able to start discussing working with them in terms of licensing?
So I mean, that's probably my area. I do most of the licensing with clubs. Not saying that Paul can't, but he kind of leads me to that area.
Can I just say, I didn't actually realise, because obviously I see the list of licensed clubs, but I've never actually counted them. So until you mentioned it earlier, I was like, oh yeah, there's 18 of them. That's really cool. Carry on.
There's 18 of them. And I mean, so licensing is like you can't really say, oh, it's this is how it goes, because I think every single process for every single club has been different. There's been, we've got some clubs where I've emailed their retail department for 6 months, badgering, knocking on their door, going, let me call you, want to have a chat, blah, 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 blah. Nothing, not even a reply. And then like randomly 9 months later, I'll get an email going, sorry for the delay, just seen all your stuff online. It's just like, sorry for the delay. It's been 9 months. I think we're past sorry for the delay. Let's just start again, shall we? But you get it's kind of like when you go to the pub with like your mates and stuff, and your mates bring their mates, and you don't know everybody there. Some of them are all right, and you're like, yeah, he's all right. Some of them are a hoot, and some of them are just knobs. Like you can't get away from that. You can't get away from that. We've spoken to clubs and we've basically laid down to them like, we can make you money in areas that you currently do not make any money. And they're like, nah. And I'm just like, okay. And then 6 months later, they're tweeting, doing fundraisers because they've got no money. And I'm just like, you need to kind of loosen the reins a little bit. And that's where the clubs we're licensed with, every single one of them, all 18, are absolutely incredible. Like, I've never seen a set of clubs that are so caring towards their supporters over everything else. All they care about is that the fans are getting what they want. And the clubs have the ability to earn revenues at the same time. So, I mean, getting your original question of like getting a meeting with a club I think every license we've done actually, no, that's a lie. About 4 or 5 of the licenses, we've not even met them. It's all been done via email. 2 of those, granted, because we've been in COVID-19 stuff, but typically we'll reach out to a club, they'll be interested, just say come in for a meeting straight away. So we'll go in for a meeting, and then that's where you kind of make it or break it. It's all at the meeting. You've got to kind of convince a retail manager that turns over between 500 grand and £5 million a season in a club shop. You've got to try and convince them that your product is what fans want, because there's no beating around the bush. They know what they're doing. They're a retail manager or a licensing manager for a reason. But that's where kind of I think our passion comes through. And we've only met one club that we haven't. Every single club we've met, we've secured a deal, bar one. And the one club we didn't do a deal with I'm not saying we didn't do a deal with. Like, there's potential to still do a deal with them, but there's a lot of kind of hurdles to jump and a lot of people involved. That means basically, as a club gets bigger, more people have a say. So if I go and meet a League Two club, who I'm meeting will pretty much be the decision maker. If I meet in a Premier League club, there will be the person I'm meeting will say yes or no, but has to get that signed off by a chairman, by a finance director, by a retail kind of buyer. Like, there's like 4 or 5 people that have to sign it off. So the Premier League licenses take a little bit longer. We have just done another deal with a Premier League club, who I can't reveal yet, but it will be announced kind of in the coming weeks. But yeah, it's, some clubs we've gone to, and I remember our first meeting, was it Exeter? The first meeting face to face. So that was done.
I feel as though it was Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah.
The first meeting we ever went to was Sheffield Wednesday.
You can tell a joke now.
We've learned so much from that meeting with Sheffield Wednesday, because we went to this meeting and, Sheffield Wednesday is probably one of our closest licenses right now. We work with them really regularly. We've got the exclusive right to do their retro shirts. They're earning really good royalties, and I probably speak to Sheffield Wednesday 2 or 3 times a week. But that meeting was unbelievable. We went there, and I've never felt so unprepared in my life.
Yep.
We went there thinking we knew what we were doing and so on, and then
for the first half of it, we did.
They're asking us questions, and I'm going, I ain't got a clue. I ain't got a clue what.
It was a roller coaster, that meeting, because it was almost like we went in and Carl sort of does the pitching and everything was, I'm like, this is in the bag, this. And then literally halfway through, there's a question, and I'm just like running around in my brain like a headless chicken. Like, I actually don't have the answer to this. And then there's another question. I'm like, I don't have the answer to this question either. And I mean, it's been a stark learning curve since that particular meeting.
But now because of that, and then we've had meetings with, from Bristol Rovers to all these other clubs up and down the country. And now I think where the company is gives us a lot of confidence, because of the following we have, the sales we do, the social following we have, and everybody really behind us. It's given us as individuals and as a company confidence. We now go into clubs going, we have these products, we do this kind of design set as a brand. This is the vibe we push, and we know it sells, and we know it will be backed by fans, and we are confident in what we're doing. Whereas I think, at the early stages, you're going into club meetings. Sheffield Wednesday was quite early in the Terrace's kind of company kind of lifespan. So we were going in there almost trying to convince ourselves as well that the products were worthy of being licensed. Whereas now we can go into club meetings going, these are the best quality products you're going to get in these categories. We do them, and we put these designs on which fans want to see, and that confidence can kind of come across, which I think speeds up securing a license. And Paul doesn't know this yet, but we had an email this morning from another club that wants to license with us. We'll talk about that after.
It's Good Friday. I'll let you off.
But that is where the tables have turned slightly is at the start of the company, we were consistently chasing clubs and saying, oh, we want a license, we're amazing, we do this, and you should license with us. Now we have the ability to be seen more online, but clubs will approach us and say, oh, we've seen this and we've seen that. How can we jump on the phone and have a chat about how we can work together? And these clubs, the clubs that contact us to do that, we've already emailed them, but staff have changed over the last 12 months, or we've been emailing the wrong person, or not a decision maker, and that's where suddenly things start clicking into place. And I think we're on 18 now of licensed clubs. We'll be on 19 in the next 2 weeks,
and I've got 2 more on the hook.
So that'll be 20 in the next 2 weeks potentially, and then I would say by the end of the year, I'd be surprised if we weren't on 30. But
it's a long process. Like it is a long process. Like it's not some things just literally happen instantly overnight. But I mean, for example, one of the clubs we're licensed with originally said no to me, and then 6 months later came back to Carl through a different channel, and now we have a fantastic relationship. So I mean, it kind of really just shows the strength of our brand, and sort of the brand that we've built into, like, people recognize that now. People, I mean, the fact that people are actively approaching us, especially from clubs where big Premier League clubs approaching us, and it's sort of that in itself gives us confidence, like Carl said, in that we have a great product, it's well presented, and we have a great brand as well. So that's kind of given us the confidence to be like, right, okay, well, this is what we can do, and that's how it's pushing on.
So but, I mean, with clubs,
go on. Sorry, Carl, go on.
Sorry, with clubs aside, you touched on the licensed art workers. I mean, they're not. Most of them are licensed art workers. Some of them aren't. They're just brands or personalities, like Bootlegger and No Context Turn. The fan-led stuff is what I really take quite a lot of passion in, because you said earlier about like Grady Draws, like the artwork that's produced by Grady Draws is absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
But for a fan that has that talent, that has a day job or has life, outside of work, and they don't have the ability to just suddenly post something and thousands of people can see it, or people can, oh, I really want that on a mug or whatever. Like, people, they don't have the ability to do that because we're an on-demand business. So, Gary, you come onto our website, you order a mug, I come in the next morning, see your order, and I print that mug and ship it to you. We're not holding stock. So we kind of give art workers and fan kind of led projects a real voice, where, I've said to Grady George, you can send me 500 designs. Every single one will be available on the store because I'm not holding stock. So this suddenly opens doors for fan-led projects to earn money and earn revenue, which is so vital for people like that. Like, we've just launched a graphic bomb range with, kit-inspired trainer designs and all these really cool, unique pieces of art and these talented people. And now they have a platform that they can go to that is, we're seeing between 30 and 40,000 people, unique visitors a week on the website. That's suddenly a platform where they can be seen as an art worker. And there's certain art workers that we work with that, because they're on our website, they've been seen by clubs, and then the clubs have reached out to them to do bespoke pieces for the club shop. So, and we've been the stepping stone for that. And that's what I feel is really important regarding our platform. We have our own products, but we also give art workers and fan art workers a voice and a platform to be part of. And every time one of our art workers is getting paid their royalties, they still can't quite believe it, because they're like, I had nothing before, and suddenly overnight everything went online, and suddenly I'm earning money. It's like, comes out of nowhere, and that's the benefit of our business, is how quick we can operate and make things happen, really.
Yeah, and obviously with the continued success of your business came the Terrace headquarters and some more members of staff. So just tell us, you don't have to give exact addresses, obviously, but just tell us roughly where Terrace HQ is and the other guys.
Because what's been the weirdest thing is that people keep tweeting us going, I didn't know you were based in Banbury, and they're taking photos of the unit just in Banbury, and I'm like,
it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird, that, isn't it?
The other side of the wall, like that's.
Can we just point out as well from that perspective? Like, I obviously live up north, and Carl is obviously down south in Banbury. From that, it was Carl. Basically, it was last year. We basically had a choice: when do we quit our full-time jobs? And Carl basically took the plunge before I did. And at the time, obviously, we've not really touched on it, but at the time, we were both pressing, packing, shipping orders from the spare rooms in our houses. Like at Christmas, mate, there was I'm not even exaggerating. There's hundreds and hundreds of boxes all over the place in my house. I'm surprised that I'm still married. And it was to the point where Carl was literally, I mean, the room that I have is double, if not nearly triple the size of the room that Carl
I'm in now was the printing room. Oh, we're gone.
Oh,
this room so now, I'm literally in a spare room. This was what I printed out of. It's like, we were printing. Paul was packing, sending me videos of like his landing, just with like thousands of mug boxes everywhere. My kitchen was goods out department, so my better half was going into the kitchen, and there's just boxes everywhere. And it's like Paul said, it's like we operated out of Paul's up north, I'm down south, but we were operating out of 2 spare rooms in our houses to make things work. Paul, we were told you a while ago, when we taught ourselves how to do this, I say taught ourselves, we kind of invested.
Tell them the proper full story, because the full story is
better. I mean, regarding like taking it all in house ourselves and stuff, like we've always used different suppliers for different products, and to scale a business, you obviously need to save money. So one of the areas of where to save money was for, rather than using a supplier to print mugs and all these other different products we were doing, I said to Paul, with my print background, I can print those myself. If we get the equipment, I'll print them myself. So we went down for a meeting with Exeter, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then we were sat in a hotel cafe having a meeting. And I said, look, right, sod it. I'm going on eBay. I'm going to find a mug press and printer. And we bought a second-hand mug press and sublimation
from a church charity group.
Yeah. And then I got them home. Took me about, 24 hours to work it all out and get it all sorted. And I was like, I've done it. We're printing mugs. And then I just sacked off the supplier because, I mean, that supplier myself didn't get on very well anyway. So I was itching for a reason to kind of get rid of him. And then, so I started pressing mugs. And then suddenly we're starting getting loads of orders. And I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm coming home up from work at 5 o'clock and there's like 30 mugs to send tonight. So I'm sat there pressing mugs. So I said, Paul, you're going to have to get a printer and a press as well and help me here. So I got a new press for pressing mugs. I got a new sublimation printer and I sent Paul the ones we bought off this church group. He video calls me about 10 minutes after setting it up and he's set it on fire in his garage and everything's blowing up and smoking. So then I just said, we're going to have to just go for it here. So we bought like the best mug presses we could find, the best sublimation printers that were kind of reviewed online. And one thing led to another, and we've just been scaling so much. And like you said, with staff and stuff, so it's always been Paul and I. We've never had any help. I think a notable mention to our better halves have helped along the way. We're building bloody postage boxes and all these little things along the way. But then the probably last September, I said to Paul, like, now's the time. We need another member of staff. It's getting silly now, and like
silly is probably not a good word to describe it because it was more than silly.
It was just
it was more than silly.
19-hour days, like it was just ridiculous. So yeah, we welcomed Craig, who's actually my best mate. We're very kind of, I wouldn't say protective, but we're, regarding staff at the business and stuff, there's a very big level of trust that has to be brought in because the way we operate and stuff, like those staff will see the full workings behind the business, from finances to everything, like just with stuff that's on show, how our units are set up and stuff. And also, because we're an on-demand business, like I said, you order a mug, we'll print it the next day and ship it out, is we as a business can't afford to just, have 3 members of staff and then they all just don't turn up one day and don't come back. Because there's it's not like, oh, it's right, I'll go pick them all off the shelf myself. It all needs printing and packing and so on. So there's quite a high level of trust required. So we had Craig come and join us at the start of the year. He's handling production for us now, and he's been my best mate for 17 years. And he quit. He'd been at a job for 11 years, and he basically handed his notice in. Came and worked full time for us, and we also took on my better half, Lydia, who does customer service. Because let's not beat around the bush, Paul and I aren't very caring. Well, we are caring, but when it comes to customer service, we're that busy that people are getting like one-line replies, like, "Yeah, I'll sort that for you." Bringing Lydia in to handle customer service allowed us to adapt that part of the company, because it was someone that had their sole focus was just looking after our customers. We felt that was something that our customers deserved. So now when someone replies, they get a nice lengthy response. They get a proper, they get, what's the word? They get a nice kind of acknowledgement of the problem, a solution for the problem, and they're looked after. When it's Paul and I, we were handling customer service, but we were doing it at 11 o'clock at night before we went to bed and stuff. Like, we just quickly power replying to people to make sure that they're sorted and that, their problem's sorted, but they weren't getting that level of kind of care that I felt and Paul felt that they deserved. So Lydia was brought in full-time to handle customer service. Craig was brought in full-time to handle production, which would then allow Paul and I to focus on just running the business. So by doing that, that's allowed us to secure more licenses with clubs. Like, it's our fastest growing rate so far for securing licenses. It's allowed us to develop products. It's allowed Paul to actually not be doing accounts at 3 o'clock in the morning and have an evening. There's a million things that it's opened, but at the same time, I think since Lydia and Craig started, it's grown tenfold again. Yeah. And I still don't have any time. We were like, oh, when they start, Carl, you're going to be able to design all this stuff, and you'll be sat there all day just designing, and you'll be able to wrap up all these licenses. And like, I'm going into the office in the morning going, oh shit, I've got 32 emails from the last 4 days. I've really got to reply to them now. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like everything catches up on you so quickly, and because the rate we're going, and like, COVID-19 comes in, and everyone goes, "Oh, me and Paul and I."
You made it sound like a transfer then.
Yeah, COVID-19
comes in at centre.
Last minute with free transfer, and I remember Paul going, "This is really going to shake us. We've got."
Well, no, we were there, if you remember.
Yeah, and it was just like, this is going to shake us, because people aren't going to be buying online. People are going to be scared of spending money, and so Paul and I had a meeting, and we assessed the situation. We have reserves financially that we've sensibly put aside for not for pandemics, but just if we ever wanted to grow more. Pandemics never actually came up, but so we assessed, because I said to Paul, whatever this crisis brings, whatever the pandemic brings, every member of staff gets paid in full, whether they're working or not. So even if there's lockdown for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, they're at home, they're not allowed to work, they get paid in full by us. Because like Paul, like I, there's kids, there's mortgages, there's families, there's all this stuff that's so important. And I think working for other companies across decades, I've learned how to feel unvalued as a member of staff. So the one thing that Paul and I want to bring to the Terrace is the people that work for us, they're like family. And because they are family and friends, it's easy to do that. But it's, we said, right, everyone must be paid full. But at the same time, it's easy for me to say that. And then Paul does the sensible thing. It's like, yeah, but we're going to need money to pay them. So I'm kind of sat there going,
this is where though, on that subject, this is where, like, when I say about how, like, well, I think we work together, it's very much Carl comes up with something, and then we get like, right, well, actually, it's going to cost this much, or this is going to be that, and we've got and this is one of the things that when it comes to like hiring staff, it's very different, because like in the end, when there's just me and Carl, if I can't afford to pay my own mortgage, then that's my own problem. But when I've got someone else who I need to make sure that they're getting paid, and because they've got family and they've got a mortgage and stuff, like when it comes to us, it's kind of like we're the last ones that sort of would ever get paid. But it's like that's like one of the big sort of things for me when we were discussing, can we afford this, and can we do this, and how's this going to work? And it's like Carl says, like, in the end, we're not, at the moment, I don't have any obviously issue with companies who are sort of jumping on the government furlough scheme and like stuff like that, but like we're not doing that. Like we don't need to, because we're small and we're not, at the level where we've got 800 staff where, we might be in sort of financial dire straits. Like at the moment, touch wood, things are okay, but that's just a part of, we want to make sure that the people that work for us are looked after and taken care of. And, if they need something or whatever, like it's sort of part of being a good employer, really.
No, 100%. And I think Paul and I had a conversation about like, is this really going to shake us? And we expected it to shake us. And the joy of our business is that we can adapt. And, the NHS kit mug, whilst we're not profiting off of it and everything's gone to the NHS, it still keeps us going. It still keeps the mug presses beeping, the printers running. And, what I think was really nice about the NHS kit mug is that the amount of orders of kit mugs that people also bought a club kit mug, and they're all new customers. So people were discovering us as a brand and going, oh, bloody hell, I didn't realise they sell Oldham Athletic mugs, like, and they order an Oldham mug as well. And, so with staff, it's been a massive jump and, again, a learning curve for us. 3 years ago, I didn't expect to be putting health and safety posters up on the wall and first aid kits and following legislation to make sure we're doing it right when my best mates stood next to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to do that kind of stuff. You have to follow the rules and so on. And yeah, did I think we'd be employing people? Never. I thought I'd be putting mugs in my spare room for the rest of my life. But
can we also say though, as well, when it comes to obviously like moving into like business units and stuff, like at the time when obviously Carl was outgrowing the space that he was in, it was a sort of a no-brainer really to try and find somewhere. But obviously at the time you think to yourself like, yeah, we're actively looking in the next 6 months to hire some staff. Where do we go to? Like, do we go to, I mean, we could probably have gone to the place that we're in now, but we would have obviously had a lot higher expenses, a lot of unnecessary overheads. And obviously Carl was actively looking around to try and find a place that would work. And it's quite funny really, because the place that we moved into, the first day that I obviously went down there and helped Carl move into this new place. And on the first day, we're like, yeah, this is nice. We've got a couch in the reception and like blah, blah, blah. And then within 2 weeks, it was absolutely rammed to the rafters. Like there was boxes as high as the ceiling everywhere, like stuff absolutely everywhere. And it was, it was probably a struggle to go through Black Friday and Christmas with what we actually had there. I mean, I'm sure Carl will tell you.
Yeah, like to put into perspective, we're in a new premises now, which I think is 750 square foot. We've got loads of room, there's loads of room to operate, to move around. There's a separate office for the office side of stuff, and it's got an upstairs for storage. So there's tons of room. Where we were before was the downstairs of a cafe. It was probably 200 square foot, if that. We're operating
200's being generous.
Yeah, it's probably 100 square foot. It's nothing. Like, we were downstairs with a cafe who were brilliant to us. They gave us a space to kind of grow our business in. And we definitely did that. I think we moved in November and moved out in February. So we outgrew our first premises within 3 months. Yeah. So, we had to take this new premises, and it had to be something big that we could grow into, because we planned to be there for at least 3-4 years. And that's what we found now. And, we by moving to the new, bigger premises, it's actually adapted our business that we can now take on larger wholesale orders, because we have the storage room for blank products. So one of our licensed clubs has just ordered 2,000 mugs off of us for the club shop, and that's not our design. they've seen the quality of our products, and they want us to print their generic club shop mugs. So, they want 2,000. There's another club that are going to order 3,000 for next season. I took a phone call yesterday, and it's not even from a club; it's from just an associate. He's after 36,000 coasters to be printed. So and now we have this new premises, we can do that. So it's it's been the right move for us. It's just unfortunate the day we did the contract, they shut the football season.
Yeah,
so
we literally signed on the dotted line, and
and then they say the football season's been cancelled, and that obviously kind of
set me into worry mode. I'm
like,
we just moved into a new place, and football season's cancelled. We're probably going to be on military flipping lockdown. And at the time, we were panicking because at the time we were kind of like, well, if there's like a properly enforced lockdown where you literally cannot leave your house, and couriers might stop delivering, and you think about all these potential things that could happen. And obviously, at the time, I was going 5p, 10p, and you're just thinking to yourself, because you think to yourself, like, how do we get through these? Because I'm sort of very analytical, and I'm always looking forward and saying, like, right, in the next 3 months, we're going to be spending X, Y, and Z on this, and this. Like, we're moving into this new space. So obviously, but is there going to be a downturn in sales? And these are all things that are sort of kind of new to me because, like Carl said, we don't come from a business background. I'm not sitting on like a business degree and, trying to work these things out. I'm taking advice from my accountant, and I'm, doing these different sort of costings and, trying to work out where we're going to be at to sort of see how we go. And it's those elements of like the business that's been a big learning curve for us. But like Carl said, moving into a new space has been beneficial to us in the sense that we've got the space now to expand and to try new things. I mean, in the past we used to have to get mugs delivered like in boxes, like we'd have to order a few hundred at a time. Now we're ordering 2,000 at a time, and in future that'll continue to grow and increase because we've got the space to do that. And it's also improved a lot of the productivity and the business's output in general.
Yeah, definitely. And you've already commented on your sort of social media reach, which is massive. And, the fact now with so many licensed clubs as well, it's getting bigger and bigger. So I think one of the questions people listening might wonder is, why a podcast? Why get to this point? What it's something you wanted to branch out into to sort of further your reach?
I like talking.
Paul likes talking. And secondly, I think it gives us... every day we're kind of looking at whether it's social media, website, we're looking at digital platforms on how can we give something to fans. So, whether it's Twitter competitions, whether it's Instagram stories, Facebook adverts, how do we reach fans? How do we tell them who we are? How do we get them to believe in our brand? How do we get them to understand us? But at the same time, how do we give something to fans that support us? And we have this idea that we want to do this podcast because obviously this pilot episode is just us chatting about the Terrace, who we are, what we've done, and it's given our kind of supporters just a little insight into where we come from, what we do. People, if you've got to this point, what is it, an hour and 3 minutes in, and you haven't switched off, God bless you, because we just waffling on about business and so on. And, this is just a pilot episode to just chat to us, understand who we are. Gary, you're going to be the lead on the podcast with our next kind of episodes and stuff. But the point of the podcast is that we want to give fans an opportunity to listen to interviews with people from the football world that aren't on the pitch. There's a lot of interviews that go around. I know you yourself interviewing footballers and so on. And I know you also touched on it in the past with Leeds kind of staff and stuff, is we want fans to be able to listen to an interview with a member of staff from the club. It doesn't even have to be at a club, but someone in the world of football that is off the pitch. It could be match day police. It could be stewards. It could be someone from the burger van outside the ground. It could be, retail managers, licensing managers, social media managers. The list goes on and on and on. And what I hope to achieve from that is, one, you're going to hear some pretty amazing stories from our future guests about what's involved in their day-to-day, how they got into it. And I hope that our listeners can take a little bit of inspiration from that, because the bottom line is Paul and I work in football. We also work in retail and so on, but dominantly we work in a sporting world, and we have built that from absolutely nothing. We've not been handed a company, handed an opportunity. We have built that from the ground up, whether it's been sitting up till 2 o'clock in the morning after your full-time job to get it done, whether it's been sacrificing your weekends, money, anything. And with time and kind of perseverance, anybody can do that kind of thing. And we're hoping that the future of the podcast is going to give fans an insight into hearing you have a nice little chat with some people that we've put forward who are absolute amazing characters. And, you know, I want younger audiences and older audiences to listen to it and maybe take from it and realize that I could do that. Oh, I'd like to kind of explore that. Like, being part of the football world or the sporting world doesn't mean you have to be on the pitch. There's so many important cogs off the pitch that keep the sporting world going, that keep money ticking, that keep, you know, people loving their club. It's not just from the people on the pitch, and we want to kind of like open that world a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, we put out an opportunity for fans to ask some questions, and we got a few back. So I'm going to go at a few of them. You can have a fight over who wants to answer them. So the first one come from at Riot Badger on Twitter, and it was: does it annoy or flatter you when you see other businesses adopt your product styling and tone of voice in their comms?
I'll let Carl attack this one.
Where to start? I mean, I got a lot of time for that guy on Twitter. He's been a big supporter of what we do, and I think I can probably guess who he's referencing as well, but there's no need to go into that. I think in a nutshell, you have to be flattered to begin with. We know what we're doing, but also we don't know what we're doing. I'm as a creative person for the company, I am doing what I feel is aesthetically pleasing to the eye when it comes to promo graphics, product mock-ups, product designs, and so on. So if someone wants to go out and copy what we do poorly, then I have to be flattered that they are using us as a basis and a core as what is the right way to go. Of course, I think Paul as well will be flattered by that, but we are deemed, you know, if someone went and opened a sports shop now and they based it on Sports Direct, JJB, JD, whichever sports shop you want to go down, said shop would be flattered because they would be seen as the leader that people want to copy. It's hard not to be annoyed, though, as well. It's naturally, when you've built something yourself, of course, it's hard not to be annoyed. I've said this a million times to people before. We have not invented the wheel. What we do isn't something that is like completely bespoke to us. The bottom line is we are putting a football club's shirt pattern onto a product to create a piece of nostalgia or memory for a football fan. That imagery and that design that we're putting on that product used to be a football shirt. So we're not reinventing anything. We're not creating something. What we're doing is creating memories and connection between fans and merchandise. I think where the annoyance comes into it is we would push any young aspiring football fan or whatever to grow a business in football, to give it a go, to follow their ideas, but to follow their ideas. Like when you copycat another company, you have to ensure that you do everything perfect. Otherwise, you are just a cheap knockoff. And that's what's happening with a lot of our copycat competitors, you might call it. You know, you've got kit mugs coming out of every hole in the country at the moment from these different companies that look at us and go, I could do that. And they do some half job kind of design work to make it look like something. And where the real annoyance comes on, and this is what that tweet touches upon, is I think tone of voice is a really well-worded part of that tweet. If you're going to have an idea, or you think you can do a better job than us, or you think we do something wrong and you can do it better, please, by all means, go and do it. Because there's nothing better than fans following their dreams and achieving sport in business world. But to then take another company's tone of voice on social media and copy the outlay of their tweets, copy their promo graphic styles, copy their mock-up styles, you're not leading by an example. All you're trying to do is rip off another company. And what that actually falls under is, whilst it might not fall under trademarking, what it actually falls under is a category called passing off. So where our concern as a business comes with that is, we release new products, we release a new product with promo graphics, we have our brand, we found our style, how we want to do stuff. When a copycat company waits for us to post and then post similar things with a similar graphic, with a similar tone of voice, what we worry about there is that company fans on social media will see a copycat company and assume it's us, and that's what they're ultimately trying to do. They're trying to have social media users think that their product is our company. Over the years, it's something that's gone on for a couple of years now, and the thing that annoys me the most is when we've, on the odd occasion, had emails from customers complaining about quality of products, and we have to then go back to the customer and go, we didn't sell you this product, because the customer's then like, yeah, you did, it's one of the kit mugs, and it's like, we have no order from you, and they've ordered from a copycat thinking it's us. I mean, say how it is, when you're going to go and copy a company's logo, a company's social presence, a company's imagery, you're not really painting yourself in any kind of productive light. You can't really call yourself a football fan in the sense of some of our copycats preach that they're football fans and, they're the originals and they do this and they do that. And it's like, why, Paul and I are just humans. Like, we're all just humans. We can all do something, but be a little bit creative. And on that point, like companies like Graphic Bomb, Kitsman, all these companies and brands on Twitter that supported us from the very, very first kind of tweet that we put out, they are the ones that we owe so much to. Because, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter as well, is like the copycats will post their tweets out and they just get kind of flooded into our inbox. You've seen this, you've seen this. Oh, have you seen these guys? They're copying you. And it's like, we have seen them. There's no point blocking them because they'll find a way to copy our page. But it's getting to a point now where we're having to stop teasing new products because a copycat is trying to get there before us or trying to time their launch at the same time as ours. So we have to drop stuff. So we've had to adapt a little bit to kind of put up with the copycats. But is it annoyance or flattering? I think it's both. But as a creative myself, it's more annoying than anything. It just drives you up the wall.
Good answer. Good question as well from Riot Badger. So next question from Phil Russell. And I think we've touched on this earlier on in the show anyway, so we know the answer to this. But he said, would you ever do a small run of bespoke items for grassroots clubs? He thinks his charity football team, Battling Fat Lads United, kit would make an awesome towel, mug, etc. And in a very dubious link, I very nearly played for Battling Fat Lads United once because I think they must have been very short, but I didn't end up playing.
I could definitely play for them. I mean, with that, like Carl said earlier, he touched on it. Like nothing's impossible. So, we have request a kit features where you can literally upload a picture of a kit and we will bespoke design that kit for you, and then you get that on. In terms of if you want it on a mug, yeah, that's fine. Anything else, if you want it for your team or stuff like that, just get in touch. It's quite easy. Next
question then, Mark Carter over on Twitter again. Your biggest regret as a business so far? And you can't add in me as podcast host.
I know exactly what this is.
Asking Paul to start a business with him.
Can I take this one?
Yeah.
So when Carl said earlier, we talked about hiring Craig like back in September. We obviously know that like Black Friday and Christmas is like the biggest sales period of the year. And obviously having a set amount of data from Black Friday 2018, we were looking at doing predictions for Black Friday 2019. We basically discussed whether we should hire Craig, and this was probably September time. We're like, this is like his notice period. We know that we're going to hire him in January anyway. Should we hire him in November? Carl's like, obviously pushing that in, and I'm kind of like, yeah, we can deal with this. Like, we'll manage the order levels, and at the time, to be fair, to me, we could have managed those order levels until Carl decided that we were going to release the no context turn range on Black Friday, which basically just ruined my life for about 8 weeks. So, I mean, I can't even tell you like how much of a regret it is that we didn't just say, yeah, let's just take a punt on it, because in the end it would have been, an additional 6 weeks or so of salary. But that was just the accountant in me thinking, oh, we can do that ourselves and save a little bit of money. But if I could go back, I would definitely have hired Craig several months earlier, because it was just, you reach a point where there's a certain amount of things that one human can actually do in those processes. And when you reach that sort of breaking point, for example, on one day I shipped 350 orders in a weekend, and I refreshed the screen and there was 550 more in there. And it was just sort of a constant like battle of, I'm working a full-time job. I'm getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm trying to reply to customer emails at 6 o'clock in the morning, working my full-time job 9 to 5, then instantly just being back on getting the orders done, getting them sent out, and in the meantime trying to do other things. And yeah, I mean, for the sake of what it would have cost us, I would rather have hired him earlier. So that's my biggest regret.
Yeah.
To add to that, let's just kind of like say that is probably the only time in this company's history I've suggested something to Paul. He said no, and I've said okay. Because normally I just go and do it anyway.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
He said no, and I just go, okay, put the phone down, and then just do it, and then wait for him to call and go, I said no, and I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better. I think there's a saying, isn't there? It's better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission, I think is the phrase.
That's Carl's motto for sure.
Brilliant. On to the next question then. This is from After Extra Time Shirts. And it's a pretty deep one, and I've got a little bit of a feeling about this as well. But what do you love most about Twitter, social media? There are lots of horrible things all over the place, but what positives would you say you've had from it?
I think we can all speak on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the positives I take from Twitter, social media, and so on is that within a flash, you can kind of find out about people, about stuff that you'd never seen. I remember there was this one time where there was a Leeds fan whose garden had got burnt down, and we managed to cheer him up by sending him a free mug. Meant nothing, it was nothing, absolutely nothing. But with social media, there becomes this whole open world for people to kind of see what other people are going through. And I think on the flip side, it's also a very dangerous place of the pictures that can get painted, and you can get kind of reeled into. We try to do good things on social media, whether it's asking if people are okay when they sound like they're having a tough time, whether it's sending people something for free to make their day, it's their birthday, whatever. But the trouble is with social media is we will do that. So we will say to someone, oh, it's your birthday, we'll send you a mug, DM us your address, and I'll sort it out now. Now, it's an on-the-spot random act of kindness. But because that's been put onto social media, we then get 70 tweets from people going, oh, it's my birthday next week, so you're going to send me one? It's just like, no, I'm not actually, because you asked. But then they're like, oh, well, I'm never buying from your website. It's like, okay, don't. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think social media is like, it's amazing for us. Like, it's built this company. It's what the company's built on. And I think our personalities and characters come across on social media. But by God, is it a dangerous place? Like, we're known for doing the retweet competitions to win stuff, and we give stuff away on the 1st of every month. But the amount of people that I have seen, and this is just me being picky, but the amount of people that comment on our retweet competition saying, "Oh, 29th time lucky. Oh, hopefully I'll win this one. You never choose me, blah, blah, blah." I sit there and I type their name into the back end of our website. Every single one has never placed an order on our website. And I'm just kind of like, I get you haven't won a competition for a year with us and so on, but you are aware we've got 26,000 followers. Like you've got a 1 in 26,000 chance, but that's not catering for the people that retweet us that don't follow us and so on. And it's like I think social media gives a lot of people self-entitlement, and I think a lot of people can make a difference with social media if they just changed their attitude and stuff. But I think, he asks about positives of social media and stuff. And I think one of the biggest positives is that it's allowed us to connect with people like him. I think it's, one of my favorite stories with the Terrace is actually involving After Extra Time shirts. I was still at my full-time job, and I got a tweet. He tweet messaged us saying that one of the guys at After Extra Time shirts was currently on holiday. And they'd sent me a photo from their lounger where they were sat, and the person opposite side of the pool had one of our Leeds 93 keeper kit towels on their lounger. So I said, "Here, mate, do us a favour." I said, I'll PayPal you some money or something. I said, "Go over to the bar, get a pint, get 2 pints, one for you, one for him. Would you mind going over to him, giving him a pint and saying, 'Thanks for your support, that's from the Terrace'?" And he did it for me, and he sent me a photo back of both of them with the towel and the pints and everything. And if you want to hear about a positive out of social media, it's stuff like that. Because without social media, that would have never happened. Without, it's them little extra thank yous and stuff. And, I'd be here all day if I had to reel off all of the accounts. But, Kitsman and those accounts were there right from the start. And I think because it's social media, I saw something the other day. I'm sorry to waffle on about this, but because it's social media, I think it gives you a bigger opportunity to actually connect with people. Like, Gary, if me and you lived in the same town, village, whatever, we can be mates. We haven't grown up together. We know each other. Realistically, how often would I pop round and say, "You all right, mate? How are you doing?" I've got kids. I've got a full-time job. It doesn't happen in the day and age with so much going on. Social media allows you to do that. It was only yesterday or the day before yesterday, you dropped a message into our little group chat and so on. And you're like, just checking in, how's everyone doing? And I think social media allows you to kind of do that and also see if people are, how people are getting on and so on. I think that's a huge positive to take out of it, is the connectability out of it.
I think from my perspective, it's like you say, it's sort of Jekyll and Hyde in a way, because I really enjoy the fact that you can almost get to know people without actually. We've met you once, Gary, and
what a day it was as well.
What a day! And
he's gone.
He's gone.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Oh, he's back.
Hang on.
Hey! You mentioned about meeting me again. It's like the stars aligned and everything dropped out, but we're back.
But yeah, no.
Tell me again about how great it was when you met me.
It was. I'll repeat myself. It's like you can, we met once, but it's almost like, and I don't really know you very well, but I'm interested in like the things that you're doing, like on a, and I see things that you post that I agree with or I disagree with, and it's like you can kind of get to know a person and figure a person out from the mannerisms they use in their tweets and stuff like that. But then obviously, from a beneficial side and a sort of a positive is obviously we, with a lot of the stuff, the charity stuff that we've done, it's been driven by social media. I mean, Carl said about like reaching out to people. I mean, Carl reached out to a guy who was, I think he's called Lewis, a Rangers fan who was walking from Glasgow to London to raise money for, I think, a mental health charity. And Carl just reached out to him, was like, "Yeah, like, where are you sleeping?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll find a bus shelter or like something or, whatever." And Carl was like, "Oh, well, let us know where you're going to walk to today or tomorrow and we'll just book you a hotel." And it's, it's like, that's like 60 quid. Like, that 60 quid could be in our pocket, but for the sake of, being able to just do something good for somebody when you have the ability to be able to do that is, for me, like a real positive. And I mean, I couldn't really care less if people give us plaudits for like any of the charity stuff that we've done. Like, that isn't the reason that we do it. It's like we donate to charities that we believe in or that we have a connection to, and that in itself is like a big positive from Twitter. I mean social media, sorry, but with like stuff on Twitter, I think for me it's just I enjoy the humor of it. And I mean, like, for example, there's certain people where I follow them and I just know as soon as they post something, I'm desperate to get in the comments, and just because I just know the kind of weirdos that there are around, and it's like you just think to yourself, like, some of these people need their hard drives checking, but it's like it's there's so many different elements of it. And I mean, obviously there is like a lot of negativity because it gives faceless people a voice that people would happily sit behind a social media account and say something bad to you that they would never in a million years come and say to your face. So obviously there is a big negative in that sense, but from my perspective, I'd say that 90% of my dealings with social media have always been positive, and it's good to sort of, keep up to date and connected with what's going on. We live in a very real-time world now where, somebody gets some world event happens somewhere on the other side of the world and we know about it within minutes. And that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, social media. Except TikTok, don't do TikTok. But yeah, no. Social media does tap into sort of scientific stuff, doesn't it? That in terms of if something says something nice about you or you do something that makes you feel better, it releases endorphins in the brain, and I think it's 100%. Serotonin. And and Twitter particularly, because that's where the majority of my social media comes from, is brilliant in that respect. As in, the gratification if you do a nice thing is there, and that's why people sort of search it out a little bit. But ultimately, I think we live as life wanting that gratification of being able to help people, or certainly a lot of people do, and it gives you that opportunity to do that and engage with people as well, which 100%. I think is a good thing. 100%. But it does have a terribly dark sort of underbelly at times. I mean, I could probably give you another half an hour of some of the experiences I've had on Twitter. It's not that interesting. So over on to the next question. Yeah, it is definitely. On to the next question then. Zandy T over on Twitter. Where do you guys hope the business will be in 5 years?
Alive.
That's a good answer.
I'd like to say
it's, I want to be licensed for every football club. Yeah, I want to be stocked in every club shop. Yeah, I want to be selling millions of pounds a year and stuff. But as long as we're getting paid, it can be quite happy to be the size it is now. And that's where we are with no expectations. I think we always know the business is going to grow. We are prepared if the business grows, but we don't hold an expectation that the business must grow. But I think the important part is we do put an expectation that the business must not go backwards, because we have commitments and staff and so on. So it has. And
I don't want to ever get a real job again.
No, I mean either.
I'm done with that job life.
Next question then, over on Twitter from Barney. Why don't we have classic kits these days that we look back on with great memories? There's a little bit of that just because at the time it's not great.
Nah, I think
if he's referring to, I think there might be reference there to, you take the 90s and kits were iconic. They all got these crazy patterns or something about them or something special. You got that. Everyone remembers the Arsenal bruised banana. Talking of the Premier League, it's when it before Sky, after Sky, it's Arsenal bruised banana. The Man United shirt that had Old Trafford on it. It was just there was those little things that were so iconic. Now it's a plain white shirt with 32 red written on it.
It's a template. It's a template, isn't it?
It's a template shirt off of a shelf, and that's purely. I don't work for a kit manufacturer, and I never have, so it wouldn't be fair for me to say that is because. But I would adapt. The reasoning behind that in my own head is because it's quicker, it's easier, it's lazier. It's just,
cheaper.
I can't. Yeah, it's cheaper. That's what it's all going to come down to. Is it's cheaper. It's when the kits were crazy and everything was bespoke and stuff. Players weren't getting paid 150 grand a week. They weren't getting paid 30 grand a week. By God, they weren't probably getting paid 5 grand a week. There was more clubs had more disposable income, and I think now it's kind of like shirts back then as well. They weren't 65 quid in a club shop. Do you know what I mean? And take the kind of passion out of it, and on a business front, a purely business front. And while I don't agree with it, if you're the chair or you're in charge of the kits or whatever, if your shirts in your club sell for £65 and someone says to you, right, you can have this kit for £21, or you can have this plain kit that's not as nice for £11, and last year you sold 40,000 shirts, and last year you also made an operating loss of 18 million, what are you going to choose? You're going to choose whatever's the cheapest, because your goal as a club or a club owner or a finance director is to always be reducing that operating turnover loss of 18 million. So if it means that you've got to go for a shirt that's £10 less, £5 less, because you're selling 40,000 a season, of course, you can't blame clubs for doing that, because there's not a magic money tree. These chairmen and owners are pumping money into their football clubs, and it's still not good enough for fans a lot of the time. So I think you have to be realistic about it like that. But I spoke to a retail manager actually the other day regarding shirts, and we were just kind of discussing how shirts work. And he actually told me about how when they go through a process of deciding on next season's kit, it's like a pick a mix. So you're given a shirt for a flat cost of X amount. But then if you want buttons, it's an extra £2 a shirt. If you want a collar, it's an extra £4 a shirt. If you want more than X amount of colours, it's an extra £1. If it's like a pick a mix, you pick and choose what you want, and then they build a shirt out of it. Yeah. So, that's why, it's like hardly any football shirts have collars now. It's all just round necks. It's because it's an extra £3 a shirt. It's, right. It's literally like build a shirt. So, and that's where we've had so much fun doing shirts with Bletchley Park FC, one of our sponsored club. We got to create them a completely custom football kit for step 9 or step 10, whatever it is in the football league. Like, we're talking non-league football, and it was just a really fun process to do. But I think, it's why is there none now? I think it's just purely on a cost factor. But when you actually take a look at this season as a whole, you can start to see certain kit manufacturers, and I won't use names to promote or nothing, but certain kit manufacturers are reverting back to adding a little touch of class and a little bit of bespoke into kits. Like, there's a lot of clubs out there this season, particularly this season, that have had some crazy designs. And I mean, I won't go into, we sit here all day and reel off which kits we like and which ones we don't. But I know it's a bit tongue in cheek, but the Stevenage kit this season, sponsored by Burger King, and it looks like it's got loads of ketchup and mustard sprayed all over it. It's awesome. But they're using a smaller kit manufacturer that can put that time and extra touch into it. I think when you go to the majors, it's a lot more off the shelf and a bit more kind of pick and mix, kind of pick your kit how you want it and stuff.
Do you not think, like, I had this conversation with a club chairman like 6 months ago, but I was just saying, it's like, now we think of like kits from when I was a kid, or from, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and we see these like almost unique patterns. I mean, even back then, we have sort of 3 of our license partners who in 1993, 94 had the same away kit pattern, but different colours and what have you. But it's kind of like, when I think about when we look back in 20 years, will we look back to this era now, or will we still be looking back at the 90s for the kit patterns? Because, 90% of clubs now just have a very plain shirt with a sponsor logo. And it's like, what will we look back a bit differently?
I hope in 10 years' time we've got a different idea because the kits from the last decade have been boring. Nobody's going to be buying a plain white mug with 32 red written on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Next question then from Dan at Ardman Design, and it's a quick one. Latest you've gone to bed due to sorting out orders?
4 o'clock in the sorting out orders.
Yeah, sorting out orders.
3, 4. I was still doing a VAT return at 4:15 a.m. once. Missed the deadline by 4 hours.
Carl, can you top that?
That was last month.
Carl, can you beat 4:15 in the morning?
No, probably about 3 o'clock.
But you have to remember, at the time, I was working a full-time job and Carl had just left his full-time job. So technically, he'd been at it all day. It wasn't that Carl chills from 5 o'clock onwards and I'm just working through.
I don't really switch off. Just keep going.
That's probably the hardest bit, isn't it? Do you think that's probably the hardest bit? Is like, my brain just cannot. I mean, to be honest with you, for the last probably about a month, I quit my full-time job. Like, I left it a month ago. And for the last month, we've been playing Call of Duty basically every night or every other night, let's say. And it's actually been the first time that I feel like I've been able to switch off and then I can go to bed not thinking about work. So it's kind of that's been good, but that's been one of the hardest bits.
We used to go to, I say we didn't sleep together, but I used to go to bed at night. You close your eyes at like 2 o'clock in the morning and all you can hear are the mug presses beeping.
Yeah. Craig probably has that right now.
It's all you can hear and you're just like...
It's like tinnitus.
Yeah, but for mug presses.
Excellent.
Horrible.
Next question then from Emma S at Emma S LUFC. A bit boring, but what's the furthest you've shipped a product? And also, can you change the smell of the air fresheners? More white linen, less old lady. Although she says it still makes a shitty heap of a car smell better.
Classic.
Well, I'll let you know, we've
just
had a delivery of a new cherry scent for the air fresheners. So that
there you go, then exclusive.
Cherry, but they're still cherry, but they smell a lot better. It's more like it's like a dark cherry smell now. So it's really nice. It turned up yesterday. We were trialing it yesterday, and
the furthest we shipped something. I mean,
it's got to be Australia, isn't it? Like,
we ship a lot of stuff to Australia and the US. I have a feeling that once upon a time I sent a package to Mexico or maybe Brazil or one of those South American countries. But I think we've started, especially recently, to send like a lot of stuff to like America and Australia, and we ship a lot to Ireland. But yeah, I think the furthest I've ever sent anything probably somewhere in South America. Yeah. South America, probably.
Deepest, darkest Barnsley. And the final question from this guy at Terrace Craig.
Here we go.
Do you guys ever worry about Craig's shoulders now he is carrying the company single-handedly?
This is why we didn't let him on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because we were just like, it's not worth it.
It'd just be...
He's been here 3 months and he thinks he runs the place.
Yeah.
Well, I must admit, when I first ripped the tweet off to put into the notes that I used, I wondered why I got Terrace Craig CEO on the end. I don't know what that's. I think that's a new change.
Wouldn't even surprise me.
No, to be honest, it wouldn't.
Craig has been an absolute legend. Like he isn't single-handedly bloody running the company. He has literally the last 3 months since he started. He's been a godsend.
He's a grafter. He is a proper grafter.
So yeah, right. His head won't fit through the office door on Tuesday now.
Do you know what's dead weird though, Gary? He wears an apron and he's got slippers in the office.
True exclusive news for you there.
Yeah, he's got a pair of slippers in the office.
As long as he's got clothes on and an apron and slippers, I think that's
most of the time he's got clothes.
Moving on
swiftly.
Moving swiftly on. So that brings us to an end of fan questions. Cheers for everybody who did send a question in, and apologies if I missed anybody. I don't think I have, but we've obviously been recording, so there may have been some tweets at that point. And it kind of brings us to an end of the first ever, the debut Terrace Life Podcast, episode 1, with the guys from the Terrace, Paul and Carl. How have you found it, gents, on your own podcast?
A bit weird.
I feel like all I've done is talk, but I suppose that's what you're supposed to do. So that's probably a good thing. But
you know what's funny? I feel like we've missed a lot that we probably could have talked about as well. And then I think to myself, this would be like 4 hours long if we just kept going.
Yeah, it's gone forever. But I think if anyone's listened to the whole thing, we definitely deserve us to say thank you, because looking at it now, it's an hour and 40 minutes of us talking about how we develop the business. So, but this is the thing. We hope people take inspiration from it as well, because whilst it might have been a bit of a boring listen, we genuinely spoke about how we built the business and how you can build something from nothing, quite simply. So with a bit of time and a bit of perseverance, and hopefully some people take something from that. Thank you.
And we're just a couple of normal fellas.
Yeah, that's it. And I think going to add to that point is not to get too down about setbacks as well, because I've been podcasting for a bit now, and we set our podcast up from absolutely nothing, and we've had to grow them, and it's not the same as your business by any stretch, but we've had our knockbacks. We've had people say that we're not very good and all that type of stuff, and you can either
Villa hate us, mate.
Villa do.
Villa hate us.
Why do they hate us? Is this
just because I don't know. They just shouted at us a lot via legal people. So that's actually if you want to, I'll ask a question for ourselves. Is what is the most common request email you get? Where are the Villa products?
Are you Birmingham City fans? Are you Blue Noses? People think we're genuinely Birmingham fans.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, Villa don't like us.
I think before we leave, then there's got to be one question. Do you have any footballing allegiances?
Right, I'll go into. We get asked it all the time, and quite simply, no. It's weird. We've been brought up by. We have no allegiances and so on. We've been brought up on different clubs and Premier League clubs by your dad and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I think it's because Paul and I spent so long in music. When you work in music, nothing else in the world matters. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, you have no time to follow a football team. I didn't have time to check in on my mates and say hello. Like, I didn't see people. I'm sure Paul will relate. You spend your life is on the road and at festivals. Like, you're just touring the world on the road with the 5 people that you're touring with or whatever. There's no room in life for anything. And yeah, we're brought up on clubs by our dads and stuff. And I spent a couple of years watching a team with my mate because I was working in music in that city. So we followed that club. That's more out of a love for football. When I was 17, I remember going to watch Oxford United for a season because they were like 20 minutes up the road. And I remember Paul, he's brought up on one club. A couple of years ago, he's ringing me. He's like, "Yeah, I've been starting to go down and watch AFC Fylde because it's only around the corner."
Yeah. I'm thinking about going to Preston next season just because I live here. Like, I'm just said to a couple of the Preston lads, like, yeah, sort me a ticket.
I don't think there's any allegiances. It sounds so weird to say that we don't truly follow any football clubs, but I think that's why it works. We are like huge football fans. Yeah, we have soft spots for clubs, but that's through the business because their fan bases support us so much. I think if Paul and I were die-hard fans of certain clubs, this business wouldn't be where it was today. Because when you are a die-hard fan of a club, it is hard to drop that. And we have to be really unbiased to every club.
It's like Gary when you're having a Man United player on talking short. Exactly. We have to be so unbiased because we are genuinely grateful for every single order that comes through that store. Every single order that comes through that store allows Paul, I, Craig, Lydia to do a job that we love in an industry that we love, and it feeds my daughter, it pays Paul's mortgage, all these things we don't take for granted. And I think if we were like, diehard Millwall fans or diehard whatever fans, the business wouldn't have the character or the growth that it's had. And
and that's genuinely kind of like allegiance. We don't really have anyone. It's the most asked question, and we just kind of always just ignore it, because we always say as well, even if we did support XYZ clubs, it's not important. What's important is that we're putting something out for the supporters that support our brand. And, you know, I know you keep smiling, you're probably touching upon it about, oh yeah, everyone thinks we're Leeds fans because we post so many Leeds items, and neither of us are Leeds fans. But I think it's important that people know is when they say to us like, oh yeah, there's loads of Leeds products online and there's only 3 for this club and so on, you must be Leeds fans and stuff. It's like, no, we have a lot of Leeds products. We also have a lot of Preston, Portsmouth, all of our licensed clubs, because these are the fan bases that have already really got behind us. And like Leeds fans is just, that's from day one.
Can we give a mention?
Can
Can you give a mention to the guy that we kind of owe a bit of props to for the Leeds stuff? That's, you know, I'm on about the guy on Twitter. You remember?
Oh, Wacko.
Yeah.
Wacko. Yeah. So like he was. Well, I mean, we don't know it. We don't know them.
We never met him. Didn't even know his name.
We didn't know nothing. And like when we first started, and the Yeboah kit mug come out and stuff, that Twitter account literally made who we were. That Twitter account pushed so many fans to come and buy from us, and literally got behind everything we did. And obviously, we heard the sad news about what happened and stuff, and that they passed away and that. And it was like we kind of felt a bit weird about it, because we were like, we'd never met this person. They'd done so much for us. Like, we'd message them like every week going, can we send you free mugs? Can we send you like products? Anything? But they refused to give us their name, address, nothing. They were just like, because they didn't want free stuff. They were just doing it because they believed in what we were doing. And I think that's one of the things we've taken away from touching back on the social media thing earlier, is like, one of the positives we take out of it is genuinely seeing that people believe in us. And I think that's given us the confidence to be where we are today.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know more about said Twitter account and Wacko and stuff more than us. Like, so we you know, we're buttering around the topic because we don't know them well enough to talk about the topic and stuff. But it's, but yeah, you know, we're not Leeds fans. We have a lot of Leeds products because there's a lot of demand for it. It's as simple as that. That goes the same for Preston. Like, Preston fans support us to hell and back. Like, whenever we announce that we're going to announce a new club, Preston loves it.
Announce Preston. Announce Preston.
It's just, you know, it's great to see. We're truly grateful for it.
Absolutely, and I think that brings us to an end of episode 1.
Of painting now.
No, I'm not doing any painting. I'm off the paintbrush for a bit. I'm done with painting.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go, lads. I'm ready to go. Just get me on now.
So yeah, anyway, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure to welcome you to your own podcast. But
thank you.
There'll be obviously more episodes coming out in the coming weeks. COVID did put a little bit of a handbrake on our plans, shall we say? But as soon as sort of the public health emergency, it starts calming down a little bit, then we can start getting the plans in. If not, we'll just use this method anyway.
Yeah, sounds brilliant, mate. Thank you
massive thanks to you both for your time. A big thanks to everybody who's tuned in, obviously over on YouTube. Share it. Make sure you like and subscribe when we do eventually go to a podcast format. But make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel where you'll catch the other episodes. And yeah, a big thanks to everybody, and we'll see you later.
Cheers, pal. Take care.